In the world of ultra-luxury automobiles, where brands are built on perfection, secrecy, and absolute control, very few names carry as much weight as Bugatti. For over a century, this company has crafted an image that transcends engineering. It represents status, dominance, and a level of exclusivity that only a handful of human beings on the planet will ever touch. Every vehicle that leaves their factory in Moutier, France, is not merely a car. It is a declaration that its owner has reached a tier of wealth and taste that most people can only imagine. And for decades, that image remained untouchable. Until now, because at the center of the storm Bugatti never saw coming to the wrecked Chiron Pur Sport, a $4 million machine that was supposed to quietly disappear after a devastating crash. Instead, it became the most talked about car on the internet, and it is tearing open questions that the entire hypercar industry would rather keep buried. The story begins with a man known online as Fxalexg, a wealthy Bugatti owner whose Chiron Pur Sport was involved in a serious accident. In normal circumstances, this is where the story would end. The insurance company writes a check. The mangled remains of the car get crushed or locked away. The world never hears about it. That is how it has always worked in the hypercar world. Manufacturers prefer it that way. A wrecked hypercar is an inconvenient truth proof that these godlike machines are, in the end, still vulnerable. But Fxalexg did something nobody expected. He bought the car back from the insurance company. He looked at that twisted, broken Chiron and saw not a loss, but a possibility. And then he made the call that would change everything. He handed the car over to Matt Armstrong. For those unfamiliar, Matt Armstrong is a YouTuber who has built a massive following by doing something most people consider insane. He buys wrecked luxury and high-performance cars, tears them apart, and rebuilds them from the ground up, filming every single moment. He has tackled Lamborghinis, McLarens, and plenty of other machines that would intimidate even experienced mechanics. But a Bugatti Chiron Pur Sport? That was a different universe entirely. This is one of the most complex production cars ever made. Its 8-liter, quad-turbocharged W16 engine produces 1,500 horsepower. Its body is constructed from carbon fiber so advanced that Bugatti developed proprietary techniques just to manufacture it. Everything about this car, from its suspension geometry to its aerodynamic systems, is engineered to tolerances that border on aerospace. And now it was sitting in a workshop in England, wrecked, waiting to be rebuilt on camera for the entire world to see. The first videos hit YouTube and immediately exploded. Millions of views poured in. Car enthusiasts, casual viewers, and industry insiders all tuned in to watch something that had never been attempted so publicly. Armstrong did not sugarcoat the process. He showed the damage in raw, unfiltered detail. He showed moments of confusion when he encountered systems he had never seen before. He showed the setbacks, the dead ends, the parts that seemed impossible to source. And crucially, he also showed progress. Slowly, methodically, the car began to come back to life. Components that looked destroyed were carefully repaired. Systems were tested, recalibrated, and brought back online. What was supposed to be impossible started looking increasingly possible, and people could not stop watching. This is where Bugatti's problem truly began. In the old world, the world before YouTube, before social media, before millions of people could watch a hypercar being dismantled, in real time none of this would have mattered. A damaged car would have been handled through official channels, quietly, invisibly. The brand's image of mechanical perfection would have remained intact. But this was not the old world anymore. Every bolt Armstrong removed, every wire he traced, every hidden system he exposed was being broadcast to a global audience. And with that visibility came uncomfortable questions that Bugatti was not prepared to answer. The first and most obvious question was simple. Why did Bugatti let this happen? In the hypercar world, manufacturers routinely buy back-wrecked vehicles at auction to prevent exactly this kind of situation. Companies like Fxalexg have reportedly done this, quietly acquiring damaged cars to ensure they never end up in independent workshops or on public display. It is a small price to pay for total control over the narrative. A Chiron Pur Sport, even severely damaged, could have been repurchased for a fraction of its original value. Bugatti chose not to, whether that was an oversight, a calculated decision, or simply a failure in the process. The result was the same. The car entered a public auction. Fxalexg bought it back, and the door opened to everything that followed. In hindsight, that single moment of inaction may prove to be one of the most costly decisions in the company's recent history. As the rebuild gained momentum, Bugatti found itself trapped in a dilemma with no clean exit. Ignore the project and let the narrative grow unchallenged, or respond publicly and risk amplifying further. They chose to respond. Mate Rimac, who now leads Bugatti following the merger with Rimac Automobili, addressed the situation directly. His argument was straightforward and, on its face, entirely reasonable. Cars like the Chiron are engineered to operate at extreme limits. At speeds exceeding 250 miles per hour, there's virtually no margin for error. A single improperly torqued bolt, a slightly misaligned suspension component, a carbon fiber repair that does not meet factory specifications, any of these could have catastrophic consequences. Bugatti's position was clear. Only they possess the knowledge, the tooling, and the expertise to safely restore such a vehicle. An independent rebuild, no matter how skilled the builder, introduced unacceptable risk. It was a logical argument. It was also a strategic miscalculation. By speaking publicly, Rimac transformed the rebuild from an interesting YouTube series into a full-blown debate. Viewers were no longer just watching a man fix a car. They were now watching a contest with a David and Goliath narrative with one of the world's most powerful automotive brands on one side and a single determined creator on the other. Every claim Bugatti made became something for the audience to test against what they were seeing with their own eyes. When Bugatti said certain repairs were impossible outside their factory, viewers watched Armstrong find solutions. When the company emphasized the irreplaceable complexity of their systems, viewers watched those systems get painstakingly restored. The gap between what was being said and what was being shown became the story itself, and it was devastating for the brand's credibility. This dynamic exposed something deeper than a single company's public relations misstep. It revealed a fundamental tension that runs through the entire luxury automotive industry, the tension between manufacturer control and owner freedom. For years, hypercar companies have operated under a model that grants them extraordinary authority over vehicles even after they have been sold. Owners are expected to use approved service centers. They are expected to follow strict maintenance schedules dictated by the manufacturer. In many cases, they cannot even modify or repaint their cars without permission. This system is justified in the name of safety and quality, and those justifications are often legitimate, but they also serve another purpose. They protect the brand's mystique. They keep the inner workings of these machines hidden, maintaining the illusion that they exist on a plane so far above ordinary engineering that only their creators can truly understand them. The rebuild shattered that illusion, at least partially. Viewers discovered that while the Chiron is undeniably one of the most complex cars ever built, it is still, at its core, a machine assembled from individual components. Those components can be inspected, understood, repaired, and replaced by skilled hands outside the factory. This realization did not diminish the engineering achievement, if anything. Seeing the car's inner workings up close made many viewers appreciate Bugatti's engineering even more. But it did challenge the idea that this knowledge must remain exclusive. It suggested that the wall between manufacturer expertise and independent capability might not be as high or as impenetrable as companies would like their customers to believe. The timing of this story matters as well, because it does not exist in a vacuum. Across multiple industries, a growing movement is challenging the idea that manufacturers should have permanent control over the products they sell. The right to repair movement has gained significant traction in electronics, where companies like Apple have faced pressure and eventually legislation requiring them to make parts and repair information available to independent shops and consumers. Similar battles are playing out in agriculture, where farmers have fought for the ability to repair their own tractors without being forced to use manufacturer-approved technicians. The automotive industry has not been immune to these pressures either, but the hypercar segment has largely avoided scrutiny because so few people are affected. When only a few hundred units of a car exist worldwide, there is no critical mass of frustrated owners pushing for change. The Chiron rebuild brought this conversation into the hypercar world in a way that nothing else could have, not through legislation or corporate negotiation, but through pure visibility. And visibility, in the modern world, is everything. The power dynamic between corporations and individuals has shifted dramatically in the age of social media. A single creator with a camera and a compelling story can now reach more people than a multinational corporation's entire marketing department. Matt Armstrong's rebuild videos did not just entertain millions of viewers. They educated them. They showed real people in real time what it looks like inside a machine that most will never even see in person, let alone touch. That kind of access is transformative. It changes how people think about brands, about value, about what they're actually paying for when they spend millions on a car. It makes abstract concepts like manufacturer control and corporate policy feel tangible and personal. For Bugatti specifically, the damage extends beyond public perception. There are real business implications to consider. Future customers, the kind of individuals who can casually spend $4 million on an automobile, are not oblivious to these discussions. They read the comments. They watched the videos. They talk to each other. And while most of them will still buy their cars and use official service channels, a seed has been planted. The next time a Bugatti owner is told that a particular repair can only be done at the factory, or that a specific modification is not permitted, they might pause. They might ask why. They might remember a YouTube video where a man in England did what Bugatti said could not be done. That erosion of unquestioned authority is subtle, but it is real, and once it begins, it is very difficult to reverse. The situation also carries lessons for every luxury manufacturer watching from the sidelines. Brands like Ferrari, Rolls-Royce, Pagani, and Koenigsegg all operate with similar models of control. They are all vulnerable to the same kind of disruption. The Chiron rebuild is a warning, a case study in what happens when a company's carefully managed narrative collides with the uncontrollable reality of modern media. The lesson is not that these companies should abandon their standards or compromise on safety. Those things genuinely matter, and any honest assessment of this story must acknowledge that Bugatti's concerns about independent repairs carry real weight. The lesson is that control must now be earned through transparency rather than enforced through secrecy. In a world where anyone can point a camera at anything and share it with millions, the old strategy of keeping everything behind closed doors is no longer sufficient. As the rebuild approaches its final stages, the automotive world is watching with extraordinary intensity. If Armstrong successfully completes the car and it performs as expected, it will stand as a landmark moment, proof that the boundaries set by manufacturers are not absolute and that skilled, determined individuals can operate in spaces previously reserved for corporate giants. If significant problems emerge, it will lend credibility to Bugatti's warnings and underscore the very real risks of working outside official systems. Either outcome will shape how similar situations are handled for years to come, influencing everything from auction policies to customer agreements to how companies communicate during moments of crisis. But perhaps the most important thing this story has already accomplished, regardless of how the rebuild ends, is that it has forced the conversation into the open. It has taken questions that were once discussed only in niche forums and private conversations and placed them in front of a global audience. Questions about what it truly means to own something, about where safety ends and control begins, about who gets to decide what happens to a machine once money has changed hands. These are not questions with easy answers, and this story does not pretend to resolve them. What it does is make them impossible to ignore. For Bugatti, the path forward requires something the company has never really had to practice: adaptation under public scrutiny. Their engineering will continue to be extraordinary. Their cars will continue to be among the finest machines ever built. But the world around them has changed, and the rules of engagement are different now. The brands that will thrive in this new landscape will be those that find a way to balance their legitimate need for control with the growing expectation of openness. They will be the ones that treat transparency not as a threat, but as an opportunity to build deeper, more resilient trust with the people who buy their cars. And for everyone watching, the millions of viewers who have followed every twist, every setback, every small victory in this remarkable saga, this story has offered something rare. A genuine look behind the curtain of an industry that has spent decades perfecting the art of keeping that curtain closed. What they have seen there has been messy, complicated, and deeply human. It has been, in every sense, the opposite of the flawless image that companies like Bugatti work so hard to project. And that, more than anything else, is exactly why people cannot look away. Because in a world saturated with carefully managed perfection,